everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tracy, and this is Wegovy After the Sleeve, real life talk. No sponsorships, no perfection, just honest talk, conversations about my journey and what it actually looks like. And I also give tips for behavior changes. So this week 11, and I've been on Wegovy, I guess, for the 11 weeks. I'm on the 7.5 milligram dose. This week I completed my goals and I'm really proud of myself for eating mindfully, and I actually lost 2.5 pounds. So what I did is last week I think I shared with you my experience that I had a couple of binges, and I committed to learning more about how to stop them before they start. So I spent some time watching some content from the binge eating therapist. And it really did help and helped shift my way of thinking about those urges and how, when I'm in the binge, how to bring myself out of it. Um, I'm still watching some of her videos, especially if I start to feel uncomfortable urges to eat coming on. But the one thing that's helped me for a lot in this, when those thoughts do occur, is I physically get up and leave the room and go somewhere else in the house, like upstairs or something like that. Just something to physically get me out of that space where I'm thinking about it. And that simple pause has been very powerful. So this week, I want to talk to you about journaling. When I had my weight loss surgery, that's one rule we had, is that we had to keep a food journal. So I find I was using my Fitness Pal, and I now use my one on my Samsung phone from Google. And with all the different things out there, it's so hard to journal and stuff. So when I had my, as I said, when I had my safe journaling, we had to journal. And I'm now finding out that journaling really does help you become aware of how much you're eating, um, when I'm going to eat or when I eat, and what foods I'm choosing. There's foods that I've chosen, especially when I've counted calories or have this, it counts calories for me and tells me um, just how much calories are in a certain thing that I didn't even think of, like a bran muffin I had on the ferry the other day. It was 390 calories where I could have had my toast and been way more full for less calories. Like it really helps you realize that the foods you're choosing aren't always the best for what you're having. So one of the most important things you can do when working on your health is being prepared. Being prepared to eat well truly makes a difference day to day. Being prepared with the right information, having healthy foods available and ready to eat, and having strategies for eating out on social situations. Preparation doesn't mean you're restricting yourself, it just means you're making your choices easier. So, no rules, you're just preparing to make things easier. These days, if I'm going out to a restaurant, I like to check the menu online before I go and choose what I'm going to have and a dish I know I can enjoy. Um, if it's a potluck, that makes it even easier because I can bring something I'm comfortable to eating. If I'm going to a friend's for dinner, I have no problem saying, "Hey, do you mind me asking what you're having for dinner, or can I bring something to go with what you're making?" And then that way I can bring something where I know that there's something I can feel comfortable eating. Um, so a preparation starts with a food log. So one of the first steps to being prepared is having a clear picture of your current habits. You can't decide what changes make sense unless you actually know what's happening day to day. And this is part of how a food log works, is it helps you see what you're doing day to day. So a food log is a tool for you. It's not to give you judgment or whatever. It's just a tool to help you realize what you've been eating. It's not shame or perfection. purpose of as if it yeah. The purpose of the food log is awareness, understanding what you're eating and when you're eating. You don't need to count calories, and honestly, if you do use an app, it'll calculate them for you anyway. But the more than focusing on calories, you're focusing on your patterns and your behaviors and how food actually affects you. As you know, at the beginning, I realized that with my protein drinks or with going on the Wegovy at the beginning, that caffeine or extra sugar and things like that were bothering me. Well, I figured out what that was because I food journal. So that's an example of how you can figure that out. So when you're recording things, you want to record what you ate or drank as close to the time you ate it as possible, so that you can see which foods show up more often. You'll notice patterns you may not have been aware of and understand your food environments. I used to drink gold leaf iced tea a lot. And then I went to Weight Watchers and found out, thinking it was like US tea where it's no sugar and it's just like the tea. I found out that there was so much sugar in it that I couldn't believe it was more than if I just had a regular brisk iced tea. So that kind of thing you'll pick up on is little things like that. Um, Sometimes the biggest insights just come from simply writing things down. So I've noticed that a lot. Like I said, I notice a lot when I'm writing it down and journaling is how little or how much I'm eating in a day, or how choosing certain kind of foods, especially if you're counting the calories, choosing the certain kinds of foods, you realize, well, you know what? I can eat this and I'm more full than if I eat that, or that, like the muffin. I really wish I'd had an egg McMuffin or something, because it would have been a lot better than the muffin I had, and it would have filled me and it had more healthy nutrients and everything in it than the brown muffin. So you don't need exact measurements. Just noting the portion size will help you. If you're doing this, you're more than likely been on a lot of different diets, and you know basically by looking what your portions are without even measuring. It's good to measure once in a while just to make sure you're still eyeing those portions good, but we pretty much know how much a portion is this far into our journeys of dieting. Um, So this way, you can also see if you're getting too much or too little of certain foods. Learn to what a balanced meal looks like for you. Like for me, I eat a lot of high protein. I'm pretty much carnivore, but like I said, I do like to add the odd thing in. So I guess it is a Mediterranean keto more than it is carnivore, I guess, these days. Um, Everyone is different. So the food log will help you observe and adjust your how you eat over time, so that, like I said, I notice things like the muffin and the tea. So I know, you know what? Yes, I liked the muffin, but I would have preferred using those calories a little bit better that day, because I ended up having a 1,500 calorie day that day, which is no big deal, but my calories are usually around 1,000, 1,200. Um, Speaking of which, don't eat too little. Last Sunday, I was not feeling very well, or I didn't really feel like eating, and I didn't track my food as well as I could have, because I kind of did it in my head. Knew I hadn't eaten that much, but I thought I'd eaten enough. And I went to the gym the next morning and I got dizzy and lightheaded and really was not feeling well. And I came home and I thought maybe I just didn't have enough water. I didn't put my electrolytes in my water that day. And I came home and I looked at my journal to journal, and I realized I hadn't really done it on Sunday. And once I did it from memory, I hadn't even had 600 calories that day. Well, it's no wonder I was sick. So there's a good example of journaling. You can see if you haven't had enough to eat, because with Wegovy or pardon me, the GLP-1s, you don't realize sometimes how little you're eating because you're just not hungry. Recording how you feel before and after eating also helps. You understand your hunger cues, your emotional eating patterns, which food energizes you versus the ones that don't, because some foods can make you very sluggish. Um, when you're recording your food, you want to do it as close to the time you're eating it as you want, because sometimes, you'll go grab a coffee or you'll grab an extra helping of lunch or dinner, grab a handful of nuts or snacks. If you don't record those, you're not going to realize that you've had it. And then you won't be able to realize your patterns that you have. So it's best to record your food when you eat or as soon as possible after. You won't always be perfect, and that's okay. But the closer to the moment, the more accurate it's going to be, and the more helpful to you it will be. This is especially useful for noticing your hunger levels, your emotions, and what triggers you for eating. Um, at the end of the day or week, take time to review your log, especially if you didn't lose or you saw gain or you're just curious how your week went and how you can change things. Remember to be kind to yourself. Approach it with curiosity and not criticism or judgment. And ask yourself, what are two things I did well this week? And what are you proud of? Then choose one thing you'd like to improve. Be strategic. For example, if you only eat dessert once in the week, eliminating dessert probably won't make much of an impact. But if you regularly are taking second helpings and feel overly full, slowing down and sticking to one serving might be a better place to start. So, like I said, just look at what you're doing. For me, like I said, nighttime eating. So that's why I'm working on the not eating after 8, and that is getting a lot easier. Um, Set your weekly practice with your food. We're setting our weekly goals. So if you find there's something you want to work on out of your journals, set it as one of your goals. Um, Remember, changing everything at once doesn't work. Small intentional steps, one at a time, creates more lasting results. So remember that being prepared isn't about being in control or whatever, it's about awareness. A food log gives you information so you can make choices that actually support you in the life you want to build. So if this video helped you, please like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, you're not failing, you're learning. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.